everyone. My name is Ian. I'm from Team Badger Wargaming. Yeah, I'm just here to do some War Scroll reviews of the new Sylvaneth book for Age of Sigmar. Let's jump right in. I'm going to be reviewing the War Scrolls without any of the... just the War Scrolls as is, not in regards to Allegiance abilities. That's going to be another video coming up. So let's get right into it. So we're going to start with the Tree Revenants first. These guys are probably the biggest gain in the book. Going up to 2 wounds from 1 wound, they're a solid choice now, as well as being able to receive all-out attack and all-out defense in the in once per battle round is huge. Making these guys 3s to hit with -1 rend if you're in the Bounty Hunters faction battalion. It makes these guys really popular. Like such a scalpel unit, and also being able to waypipe anywhere around the board, I think is huge. They're 110 points. I'm considering taking these just as my battle line options because Dryads don't cut it anymore. A unit of 10 of these, they're Glacian veterans, so they're fighting in 2 ranks now. That's a pretty strong battle line unit, if you ask me. Just being able to teleport anywhere on the board is so useful. The Awakened Wildwoods have had some changes over the last year or so. It's kind of driving everyone mad. I like now that it's very streamlined, and you know, you can set it up in 1, 2, or 3, where you can set it up so it's usually 3 within everything. So that's enemy units, terrain, objectives. And I like that they still kept the vengeful force spirits so that they you know, a little bit of a deterrent from your opponents coming in. Alariel. I'm really not impressed with Alariel, and here's why. Losing her Life Bloom ability to heal D3 units when we just received a whole bunch of multi-wound units, like Tree Revenants, Spite Lance Revenants, you know, Kernel Hunters are better. She lost that. And I feel like healing 2d6 each turn, like 16 mortal wounds is going to knock her off a table, and you're going to be stuck summoning. Her attack profile got cleaned up quite a bit. Like her Spirit Carnoth, she lost, I think, 6 inches range. 2s and 2s -2, 6 damage. That's, you know, that's a hero sniping ability, which is great. Town of Dwindling, finally getting that fix it needed. So now if it causes a wound, you can roll on each wound. If you roll a 6, you're going to be killing the model. I don't know how well it's going to translate into this battle line meta that's coming up. I think this would have been huge in the monster meta in Gur, but yeah. Her Right of Life ability, I will say, is very beneficial. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can say Alariel will give voice to a verse of the Right of Life. If you do so until the end of that turn, all terrain features on the battlefield that are not already considered by you to be overgrown terrain are considered by you to be overgrown terrain. This is huge, especially with the Allegiance abilities like Strike and Fade, and you're teleporting. With Treelords, it's particularly huge. But yeah, like once per battle, that I think that's appropriate. I've played a couple battle plans, or I played one battle plan where the overgrown terrain was I only had one piece that was eligible in the corner, so it wasn't very useful. But I can see this being huge. Like turn one, if you're running a lot of Treelords and Durthu, you can teleport them all into your enemy's zone and benefit from there. One thing I'm not sure if it's an oversight. She can't summon any Revenant Seekers or Gossamid Archers. I'm not sure if that was intentional or if it was just an oversight. We might have a change coming soon on that. I think I did see an earlier version of the Warscroll where she did summon, so yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Archrevenant, another big winner, I think, in the Games Workshop Lotto. Gaining a 4-up ward or +1 to hit, +1 attacks, I think is huge. You got a super fast, durable hero that's no slouch in combat. Buffs your Kernel Hunters, like the +1 wound rolls is pretty huge, especially in Heartwood, where you get +1 to hit against certain units. And also they kept the command ability +1 attacks, which I think, use that with a unit of Tree Revenants or Spite Revenants. Like that's a lot of damage that's coming through. So even like Treelord or Durthu, buffing and getting 2 extra attacks on their profiles is going to be awesome. Branch Witch, not much changed. I think we're going to see a little bit more with the Branch Wraith being gone. Unleash Spites is still pretty good, and I think a lot of Sylvaneth players have started to figure out how to use this effectively. I feel like in this meta that's coming up, a lot of 1 wound heroes or units, a lot of battle line units is going to be a lot more impactful. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of this with spell portals in a list, or even the Spell Singer. I think it's an artifact. Lady of Vines, probably my new favorite unit. Sylvaneth has been desperate for our 2-cast wizard for a while. The fact that she has War Master is also very good. Actually, a lot of Sylvaneth units have War Master, so that's good. So friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 of this unit are treated as being wholly within 6 of an Awakened Wildwood in your army. I've played 2 games with her so far, and this actually is very beneficial. So you're able to teleport out a Treelord. You can't teleport anything in because they have to be within the bubble first. But like some of the battle traits and stuff, like the songs, they're all dependent on where you are and connected to the woods. Yeah, really, really impressive ability. You basically have a mobile woods, which is pretty beneficial. Her Writhing Vines +1 hit or -1 hit. Really good. It's good that you can switch it up situationally. If you really got to kill something, or if you're against a horde of whatever, adding -1 to hit is pretty huge. Once per game, you can summon a unit of 10 Dryads on 2-up. Pretty straightforward. Pretty, you could deep strike this unit in, teleport in some Dryads. And you got a nice backline aggression. Aspect of the Everqueen. Units wholly within 12 have a 5-up ward. This is pretty good. Sylvaneth have been begging for a consistent ward save. the fact that it's around her is a little bit. It's a pretty big bubble though, and you know this will change combat for Sylvaneth. She's also really speedy. 8 inches for Sylvaneth. Most things are 5 or 7. 8 is a really good speed. 3-up save. She's tanky. Like, I think a solid unit that are going to be in a lot of Sylvaneth lists coming up. Warsong Revenant. So with the Chalice of Nectar being switched out, I don't think we're going to see as many Warsong Revenants. It's going to be specific casting builds. This is a great hero, nonetheless. Unleash Swarm of Spites can do massive damage. I think before the changes, I played Sylvaneth, and with Umbral Spell Portal, managed to take out a Magmadroth pretty much turn 1. I think it had 1 or 2 wounds left. Just with Throne of Vines, and that's all been taken away though, so we don't have the original Chalice of Nectar. Now it's once per turn, and then Throne of Vines has been drastically changed. So I think we have a solid hero to babysit heroes. Maybe giving it Tree Song to give -1 Ren to Kernel Hunters. You know, it's not something that's going to be taken off the table pretty quick. So, yeah, I don't think we'll see too much Warsong Revenant. It was pretty much an auto take, but we got some pretty good options now. Treelord Ancient kind of suffered this expansion. Its profile got great. It doesn't bracket until 6 wounds now. 14 wounds now total. The damage is a lot less swingy. The one thing I would have loved to see is making it a 2-cast wizard. You're sinking, I think it's 360 points into this guy. You can summon. They changed the Silent Communion, where you can summon a tree per Treelord now. It's only a single tree, not up to 3. But don't think it's not going to be an auto attack. Losing the +1 save bubble kind of affected, you know, how useful. Like, I would rather take a Warsong Revenant with 2 spell casts, or Lady of Vines, who gives a 5-up ward. You're not really going to get a Treelord Ancient into combat if you can avoid it, but I mean, it is still an option. I would, you know, for the points, I would rather take a Durthu or something like that. So, speaking of the big guy, finally, the biggest change has been his damage table. So, being able to dish out 6 damage a hit. You know, you give him Greenwood Gladius, gives him D3 more attacks, +1 attacks for being near Wildwood. Hitting for 6 damage is huge. Like, you're wiping out units. Definitely a scalpel. Being able to teleport every turn, great. Strike and Fade allows you to get him out of combat. So you just wipe out a unit and teleport away, or, you know, kill half a unit and safely run away. Like, it's I think he's going to be showing up a lot more, even having 2s in lists. What else? Ground Shaking Stomp has, for all the Treelords, has changed a little bit. It's not every Treelord now. You can only do 1 a turn. It is on a 3-up now, which is pretty solid. What else? He's got 2 more wounds. Yeah. I think Derthu is going to be, you're going to see a lot more of him. He's no longer derp through. He is now a force to be reckoned with. Drejcha, I'm just going to pull up her card here because I have potato camera images. Drejcha has had not too many changes. She's got War Master now. Her attack profile has been cleaned up a bit. She lost her, I believe she had a damage table before. I think a really solid choice for a hero to bring in your army. She's a 1-cast wizard, +1 to Spite Revenants, +1 to wound roll for Spite Revenants, and having 20 attacks, either melee or ranged, is pretty huge. I'm pretty sure her colony got debuffed a little bit. It used to be, I think, 18 inches. So the 12-inch is not as huge. But still, like, if you need to get 10 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, mortal wounds on 6s is nothing to, like, that's almost a unit of wardens just without the range. So, she's kind of a one-man wrecking army. I think we'll see her. When we get to Spite Revenants, we'll talk about that. I think she's a great support hero. Kind of a baby Derthu, if you will. She's not as damagey, but I think like her output could surprise a lot of people. Like having 24 attacks in melee, basically hitting on 3s and 3s. Like she's going to be really good at wiping out hordes of units. Treelord. This might be the biggest. This might be my new favorite unit in this book. Got more wounds. Damage table cleaned up. One big thing is Lash and Tangle. If an attack score with a melee weapon by this unit scores a hit, doesn't have to do damage, it just scores a hit. Models in the target unit cannot make pile-in moves until the end of the turn. So combine this with hitting last or strike and fade. Like you can, if your opponent thinks, okay, I'm going to pile onto the objective, well, you just go first with this guy, hit them, they can't move anything, and then you can get out and you've eaten up a turn. Played a game the other day. We were using the old GHB, and battle tactic was bringing down. My opponent left me on 3 lives, and there was another unit still to fight. I just teleported him out and denied a battle tactic. In Oakenbrow, they basically don't bracket until 12 wounds. So 2 wounds left, and is at the top bracket. So I'm, and as well, Battle Line in Oakenbrow. I have 2 of these painted up. I'm thinking of doing a 3rd and a 4th, just because I think this is going to be such a solid choice for future, just making it so your opponent can't pile in is pretty huge. Especially since we're seeing a lot of like 6-inch pile-ins and stuff like that, mainly in Sylvaneth, but yeah, I'm utterly impressed with how these guys performed in my test game the other day. Their damage is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. You can get that up to 3 damage. Massive Impaling Talons, 2s and 2s, -2 rend, 3 damage, up to 4 damage. He's got a little shot of 2 damage each. I think a really solid battle line choice. I just wish it had come out with the last GHB, because this would have been huge. Still the ground shaking stomp and still the spirit paths that the other Treelords have, but overall super impressed. Dryads. So Dryads are not going to be in my list anymore, simply because Tree Revenants are so good. For 10 more points, you're getting the same number of wounds. They're hitting on 4s and 3s, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 1 damage. Can teleport anywhere. 6-inch pylon. And then you have Dryads, which have a 5-up save. They can get -1 to hit and wound if they're near woods. Like, maybe I'll have a unit of 1 to stop a charge screen or something like that. But honestly, I think the way of the Dryad is, we're not going to see boards flooded with Dryads, and it's a shame because most Sylvaneth have painted up 80 of these guys. So, yeah, it's 100 points. They didn't change much. They do have the 2-inch range with 2 attacks. So, they're fighting in 2 ranks. Even more if you have the Glacian veterans, which you will have it on them. So you got, I think, 3 or 4 rows of these guys in. I don't think it's worth the points, though. I think Tree Revenants are just so much better. Spider Revenant. So the other Revenants, I like these guys. The 2 wounds each now. 3s and 3s, 3 attacks, 6s are mortal wounds. Really simple. Combine this with Drejcha, 3s and 2s, all out attack, 2s and 2s. A unit of 10 is getting 30 attacks in. You buff that up with Archrevenant, that's 40 attacks. You're going to be dealing 20 damage, 15 damage with mortal wounds. On top of that, I think it's going to be a really good list filler. I don't think you'll take them. They're battle line if they're, I believe, Dreadwood. And I believe they're 120 points or something like that. I think they're good for damage output. They're soft. They have a 5-up save with the only way is all out defense to get that up. They lost all the bravery shenanigans too, which would have helped in this edition. But yeah, I think a solid list filler unit, like maybe if you have 120 points to fill, I think putting a unit of these guys in isn't a bad idea. Putting them in the Bounty Hunters faction to give them damage 2 is pretty good. Even with having Drejcha, even building a list around that, having them in the Bounty Hunters faction, damage 2, 3s and 3s, that's pretty big. I'm actually brainstorming some lists right now in my head because I think these guys will see a little more play. Yeah. Kernel Hunters with great bows. I don't think they're a great option anymore. Still, allying Stormcast if you want some shooting, or the Gossamid Archers are probably better bet. 4s and 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage. You're getting 6 attacks in. You're going to be doing under 8 damage a turn, roughly. So, for a unit picking off heroes, I think is reasonable. I don't know if it's an expensive points thing for just to snipe certain heroes. I think there's other ways to do it in this army. One good thing about Kernel Hunters is, while this unit is contesting an objective, friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 of that objective are treated as being wholly within 6 of an overgrown terrain feature. So this is basically turning objectives into terrain features. You're making it so you're fighting on your turf. Having Kernel Hunters, babysit back objectives, these guys sniping people every turn and making it so that you can teleport around the board. I think that's maybe how the play would see. I'm not overly impressed with their attack profile. I feel like there's better options for I think they're 230 points right now. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't necessarily see them getting a lot of play. Kernel Hunters with Cythe. So the big change has been they are now -3 rend, 2 damage, so it's not variable anymore. They also have the Envoys of the Everqueen that the Bow Hunters had. Trample underfoot is still a thing, so same thing, 4 up as a mortal wound based on how many models. They also do a mortal wound to any unit that piles in closer to them. That I think is pretty useful. It's not very game breaking or anything like that, but it's chip damage, and like we've seen with like the Nurgle Balatome, chip damage hurts after a while, because that's potentially 10 mortal wounds per game against a unit. So and it also might deter people from piling in. So overall, I think Kernel Hunters with scythes versus Kernel Hunters with swords, it's going to be your flavor. The -3 rend is great, but I think having a lot of these guys might not be as good, because as you'll see, Kernel Hunters with great swords, they have 4 attacks each, so it's 12 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage, and they're doing 2 mortal wounds on 6s to hit. I think this might be the better option if you want to mask Kurnoths, just because the mortal wounds, the more attacks, is just the way to go. -3 rend was big when we were having monsters running around, but now that we're in a kind of battle line edition, I think we're going to see a lot less of those higher rend saves. We're going to see 4s and 5s of people holding objectives, so we want to I think more attacks, more damage is the way to go. Gossamid Archer. So this is one of the new units for Sylvaneth. These are, I think they're niche. They're 220 points, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s. On a 6, they do D3 mortal wounds. These are the guys running around and on the outskirts, picking off whoever they can. I don't see them as holding objectives. They are fast, 12-inch movement speed. They can retreat after they all unleash hell. They're easy to keep coherent. They can create a wide line, a great screening tool, I think. Your opponent charges them, you retreat. It's and then they're into a line of Kernel Hunters. It's, I don't know. I'm really on the fence with these guys right now. I don't see them in any of my armies coming up. Maybe as a unit of 10 somewhere. But 220 points that's a big sink for me for this unit. I would much rather take something like these guys. So Revenant Seekers, these are new units, 5 wounds each, 3 models in a unit, 12-inch move, 4 up save. These are 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -2 rend, 2 damage. That's a pretty good profile. Seeing the to hit 4s, I don't think should deter anyone. 4s with all out attack, it just makes it to 3. So Standard Bearer lets it pile in 6 inches. They have flying, so they can jump over units onto objectives. When you rally them, they come back on a 5-up. Once per turn, you can pick one friendly Sylvaneth unit with a wounds carry of 5 or less, so that's Kernel Hunters and down. These guys as well. On a 2-up, you can return one slain model to the unit. That's pretty big value. Like, that's why I think you'll see these guys in minimum size units, so you can do it multiple times. You know, returning one of these models every turn, returning a Kernel Hunter, returning, you know, Gossamid Archer, like kind of the lower count units that are really impactful. As well as at the end of each phase, if any enemy models are slain by an attack made by this unit, you can heal all wounds allocated. So it's got a little bit of the Nurgling love, but I mean, you're killing a model each turn. You got 6 attacks, 4s and 3s. You know, that's, you know, 6. That's an average of 9 damage a turn. Well, 7 damage a turn. The thing with these guys is they're fast, which Sylvaneth has been lacking. The 12-inch move is pretty huge. Being able to swoop in and get early objectives is solid. And the other kit that can be used with these guys, Spite Raider Lancers. These are the attacky version versus the Healy version. So the first strike effect applies to this unit if made a charge move in the same turn. So this unit has 7 attacks, 3s and 3s this time. And a 14-inch move. Like, these are going to be on the outskirts, pinging your enemy. You can retreat after. I think a really solid pick for, you know, having a 1 or 2 of just as a harass. Like, I think, you know, these guys are kind of on point with Gorgruntas and, you know, other cavalry units. So I think I really like both the Spite Rider Lancers and the Revenant Seekers. They're gonna have a place in our list. They're also conditional battle line in Harvest Moon, which I think is making me have some really good list ideas. You know, having 2 units of these and 2 units of Revenant Seekers just flying around, just picking away at the enemy, I think is solid. And the spells. So I can't recall what the Gladeworm did before this, but because I haven't taken it in a year. But I'm actually considering taking it now. So after this endless spell is moved, roll a dice each unit within 1 of it. On a 3-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. It has no effect on Sylvaneth units. And after it's moved, roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit within 6 of them all. On a 3-up, heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that unit. This is great for, you know, we got multi-wound Kernel Hunters, we got multi-wound Treelords, True Revenants are multi-wounds now, all the Spite Rider Lancers. I think, like, everything except Dryads now is multi-wounds, and this makes it a little more appealing to take, I think. It doesn't dispel too once it does its effects, which I think is good. You got something that's going to stick on the ground on the board. It's a good size base for blocking as well. But yeah, I think this is gonna appear in some lists. It's too bad it doesn't return slain models, but the healing mist is really good, especially with, you know, Kurnoth heavy lists, Treelord heavy lists. I think it's gonna be solid. Spiceborne Hive. So we took a hit here, mainly because it can only pick 1 friendly Sylvaneth unit instead of any Sylvaneth unit within range. It still does the same effects though. On a 2-up, adds 3 to normal move and charge rolls, and On a 2-up, you can worsen the rend characteristics of attacks that target that unit by 1, effectively, +1 save. I don't think we're going to be seeing this as much. Losing the +1 or the multiple units, kind of. I could see in this if you're doing like an Alpha Strike Dirthu list, or if you were doing a yeah, that's really the only time I would see it. And Vengeful Skull Root. So if a unit fails a Battleshock test within 3 of this endless spell, add D3 numbers to the models that flee. And after it is moved, so you roll for each model it passed across and each other unit within 1. On a 2-up, they suffer D3 mortal wounds, or D6 if they are within 6 of any awakened Wildwoods. It's got an 8-inch move. With Spellsinger, you can throw it through there, throw it through the portals. Like I said, I think we're, this is the battle line GHB, so we're going to be seeing, hordes of troops with lower bravery than the monsters, and Battleshock tasks being, needed. So I think we'll be seeing this a little bit more. It doesn't dispel either, which is nice. Stays on the board. Yeah. All right. I just want to thank everyone for listening to my talk. This is my first YouTube video. I hope to make it better. So, I know I have crappy equipment, and I know it's not as polished as it should be. I'm learning. If anyone has suggestions, please leave comments. If you can subscribe, that would be great. But thank you for listening to me about Warscrolls, and hope I can help you build your armies. Yeah, feel free to send me a message if you have any questions. Thanks, and have fun in the mortal realms.